Hey, you, come, gather around the campfire, and welcome to the party. This is Party Chat, a JRPG podcast where we talk about everything that we love in the world of JRPGs and other Eastern titles. I am one of your hosts, Cameron Hawkins, and with me, as always, is my party partner, Kevin Kenson. Kevin, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good today. Excited to talk about a game we have been playing the past, what has it been now? Like a couple weeks?
Probably 2.5 weeks. Yeah, it's been pretty significant amount of time. But yes, we're here to give our full thoughts on Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD-2D remake. We have each gotten codes to check that out. Thank you to Square for sending those codes our way. Uh, we have both completed Dragon Quest 1, and we have both played like a fair chunk of Dragon Quest 2. And we haven't finished Dragon Quest 2, but there's still a lot to talk about. And I'm really excited to just get into the weeds of it all. We're gonna just separate our thoughts between the two games, of course. Like, there are obviously new things that are reflected across both games, and when those specific topics come up, we may do a little bit of a compare and contrast on our thoughts on those things. But outside of that, when it comes to like kind of the story elements and things like that, you should expect that to be a separate conversation. Um, so yeah, Dragon Quest 1, we both beat it. It took us I feel like one of the big things that we talked about while we were playing this game, um, privately, was our experience with the difficulty of the game. Uh, I I beat the game first, but it also took me longer to beat the game. Because I think my hour count was like 17-ish hours.
Yeah.
Um, and that does not include all of the rematches and retries of fighting certain bosses, which there were a lot of them. There were quite a few of them where I felt like I was just kind of stuck on a wall, and like, that's kind of the experience of Dragon Quest. If you haven't played Dragon Quest before, it's very push and pull, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of tension in battles. Like, you can die like pretty quickly out of nowhere depending on the situation you're in. Like,
A little bit of the
it does.
RNG playing against you.
Yeah, there's definitely like leveling up really matters in a
Yeah.
Dragon Quest game.
Well, and it's
Go ahead.
especially in the case of Dragon Quest 1, because I think one of the important things to address right away about what kind of separates the original Dragon Quest from the games that came later is that you are one guy. There is no
Yes.
party. You don't have like a dedicated healer or support or anything. You are one person who has a lot of tools to work with. Uh, but ultimately you normally only have like one action per turn, and the right RNG from enemies, the right instant kill spell, the right certain moves just happen back to back, and you will find yourself knocked out quick.
Yes. And I feel like throughout most of the game, I guess I was just under leveled when I got to certain key boss fights, that I kept on dying, and I kept on trying, like, because
Sure.
sometimes because one of the parts of Dragon Quest is that, because like boss fights can kill you quickly, that doesn't particularly mean that you are too weak and you need to grind. Normally, at least for me, I need to play the fight like probably a handful of
Yeah,
times
give it a
to
couple
be like,
shots.
yeah, to be, I would say more than a handful, but but a handful of times to be like, hey, is this actually attainable? Am I just needing to approach the fight differently,
Yeah.
or am I just under leveled and I'm just getting my shit kicked in and I need to go back and grind places.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, is that I think a lot of the places where I was stuck and I needed to grind, there were no good grinding spots. Or
Mm.
like the ones that were, it's just like they were, but with a huge asterisk of like, oh, you need to like run into metal slimes, and then they can't flee, and you have to kill them, and like, those type of things where it's just
Sure.
like, sure, like, but in general, just a general like, up, this is a good area where like enemies across the board are giving solid XP to level me up. I personally feel like the game did a not great job at that. Um, and on top of that, without getting into spoilers, the last the second to last boss, so the boss that you fight before you go to the final boss in the final dungeon, I had to level up, like, I wanna say somewhere around 7 or 8 times
Damn. What
to I like, because yeah, because I was like,
do
I
you,
I was one
do
I
you
was wondering, sorry. I was wondering, like, why is it such a big difference? And I even talked to other people, after I beat the game, that I knew that were playing it, and they were like, "Oh, I was level 50 when I beat the game. I beat at 40, like 45, 46."
same.
But at the time, like when I got to the end of the final dungeon, which I did just kind of zoom through because I wanted like, I assumed that there was gonna be like a teleporter and then I could just like come back. I tried to get through it so I could get to the teleporter, just so I could try and see how difficult the boss was. And I knew that, like, okay, I do need to grind, but I didn't feel like I needed to grind a lot. And then like yeah, I just like had to get to level 45, 46, and it's just like, that's ridiculous. And then again, other people said like, "Oh yeah, I was level 50 when I beat the game." I'm like, that's absurd.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see grinding to 50, especially it's pretty easy to grind in the last dungeon at least. Because you get certain moves by that point where you can just clear whole waves of enemies like first turn. Uh, but yeah, because I think I was like 42 when I first challenged the boss, and I was like, okay, I think this is doable, but it's a little annoying, so like I'm gonna grind a few
Mhm.
levels. Um, and yeah, like I don't know if I fully agree with the idea of like the game doesn't give you good grinding spots. I part of that is the awareness of like remembering where the middle slimes are. I think a big thing that's hard to one thing that's very important in this game is again because you are one guy, um, leveraging like building specific gear for bosses is
Yes.
huge. Like most of the
Yeah.
bosses that gave me trouble, I just re-examined what my equipment was, and I was like, oh, if I equip this accessory that helps with this specific damage type, and I equip this armor that like gives me a bonus to deal with this damage type, it's like suddenly the whole fight is now like an entirely different experience, with no grinding involved. Because there was one boss I was stuck on for a minute, and I just kept kind of like out of stubbornly hitting rematch and not actually re-examining my kit. Um, and when I finally did like re-examine, I was like, oh, yeah, I just needed to equip that. Cool, here we go. Totally doable. But it
Hmm.
really does take like I will say that more so than a lot of other Dragon Quest games, this does push a degree of like system mastery in terms of like keeping a lot of varied gear on hand, paying attention to what some of your moves do, because there are some moves that I think like normally I wouldn't use very often in a Dragon Quest, and they were like the most important clutch moves in Dragon Quest One. Dodgy
Mm.
dance in particular is like
Oh, huge.
yeah, massive, like the most
Yeah.
important move you learn in the game, and it's like one of your first
Yes.
abilities. Uh,
Yes.
it's just essential because otherwise, like even if you level up for a while, you're never going to be able to like outscale the damage an enemy can deal if they decide to do their strongest physical attack 3 times in a row. So it's just like you got to dodge. Just have that. You
Yeah.
better use that ability. Get that active.
It's funny that you said that because there is a boss that you like an end game boss that you fight, and I realized even though like I was pretty well versed, it was just like he just dude kept hitting me hard, kept
Yeah.
hitting me hard. And so what I did was to beat him and do most of my damage to him, I did cop out. I just
Oh yeah.
parried. I just parried, hoping that because the thing is like the parry is pretty underrated, I think, because most of the time where I used it, he would parry, like not all, every time, but a lot of the time, like more than I expected that
Yeah.
move would give me. So I was like, okay, cool, yeah, I'm gonna keep doing this. And so because sometimes it's interesting because sometimes it completely parries, sometimes it's like, oh, it did like parry back, it did reflect back, but you took still a chunk of damage,
Yeah.
and then there's just like it not working at all. Um, but yeah, because the metal slime thing, like you're totally right. Like I knew where the metal slimes were, and but I was just like, yeah, but if I don't get the metal slime, I am just slowing myself down even more, you know? Um, versus like the end game where it's like, okay, I'm at the end of the dungeon. These are the best enemies to fight, like that type of thing. Because there's only I would say like there was like three major or notable walls, which was like um which we know this is like a thing in the story. So if you know, so light spoilers, I guess, but like the first dragon fight, right? When
Sure.
you're rescuing the princess, like that was one of those things where I was like, oh, I'm definitely not ready for this fight. And so I went back and grinded, and then but again, it was just the it was like, oh, metal slimes and like not great XP enemies was my option
Right.
when it came to grinding. And I'm like, I don't like this. Like, this is, there were definitely moments throughout the game where I felt like like a bit of my time was disrespected because I don't mind grinding. I don't mind grinding and I don't mind having those barriers and those walls. It just was a little bit too long and a little bit too frequent for my liking.
Mhm.
Um, and again, just talking with other people after beating the game, they felt similarly to me.
Sure.
To me, maybe not as strongly, but like similar. Like, yeah, there's definitely a numbers thing here or a balance thing here that feels a little off. So yeah. But I I do want to shift into just like the amount of content in this game.
Mhm.
'Cause, Square was pretty transparent that, like, "Hey, if y'all thought 3 added a lot, like, 1 and 2 is gonna be way more significant." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay, interesting." And boy, did they not lie. Like,
Yeah.
the
Well,
like,
especially because
they're
you replayed
go ahead.
1 and 2, what, like, not even a year ago? Pretty recently.
Uh, I would say it was, like, mid to the back end of 2023.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, it's relatively fresh in your mind still, though. It's because it's been a while since I played 1 and 2. I meant to try to make time for those before this, but I ended up not.
Mhm.
But, I mean, even off of those vague memories, I'm like, there's a lot here that was not in the original game.
Yeah. There's a lot, and it really expands the story, and makes it really does help make it feel more of a complete trilogy, both in 1 and 2. Um, and I like how with I think that with like this game more so, they do I won't say they go as far as they expect you to have played Dragon Quest 3, but I think they give a little they kind of like tighten the reins or like they loosen the reins a bit on like trying to make Erdrick feel more of it this kind of um hero of legends, I guess, if that makes sense. In more of like, yeah, he was like a big savior in the realm and things like that, but like not like this mythic individual, I guess, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, and there's certain points in the game that aren't even in the main story that have some really great narrative payoff for him and like some really great like kind of closure that I like I really want to talk about, but we're being spoiler free on this
Yeah.
pod. But like that was like one of the best like parts of the game for me, where I was just like, dang, this they really like gave us some narrative closure here and like some really personable like experiences, and it made me like kind of look back on like everything that the hero in the third game like went through and like sacrifice and all that stuff. Well, I was just like, yeah, dude, I that was really really cool.
Yeah, that was a very nice. It's kind of one of the biggest additions of the game in terms of side quests. Not a particularly massive side quest, but like
No,
just what it adds and the way it kind of ties a little bit more. Again, like you were saying, like it brings the this as a trilogy a lot closer together. Especially because the original version of one, I don't think even at the time the plan was we're going to do 3 games. The third one's going to be a prequel. Like that was just something they decided over time. And so going into this remake with that intent of as weird as it is for anyone new to the series, it's like, okay, 3 is the first one. You're gonna play 3 first. There's reasons they're doing that remake first. But it does feel very much like there's that intent for 1 is the second entry. Almost, it's interesting too because like 1 is so much shorter. Because I know you said it took you about 17. I think my logged time is somewhere around like 12. Um,
yeah,
and even
that's crazy to
and
me.
even at 17, like that is nothing compared to how big 3 and 2 are. They
No,
are both considerably larger games, and so it's very interesting how 1 almost plays out as like this interesting intermission of like, here's this big epic story of the hero of Erdrick, and then here's this tale of like kind of the end line of descendants, and all of them, they've grown these multiple kingdoms, and then the middle is just, yeah, you're gonna play this one guy wandering the world in full plate mail, just soloing stuff, getting it done by himself. Uh, Very interesting, just how it all ties together, and I think they did a really good job of creating that like stronger sense of cohesion.
yeah, and I also want to say that like I think that I like give them a lot of respect for keeping that a one hero adventure type
Sure.
deal, especially in like that kind of JRPG. Like in an action game like Zelda, it's like, okay, like that's different. You have more control of the character, like when it comes to battle and
Yeah,
stuff
it's an
like
action
that, in a
game.
way
Yeah.
that, yeah, exactly. And so but with this game, even I know I sounded like I was like down on a lot of the of that experience, but like I did really like those boss fights, because there's definitely a cadence to like how you engage and learn how these boss fights act, where I literally was just like, okay, this turn I do this turn I do that, this turn I do this, because I know that like they're going to do something in a certain realm of potential actions.
Yeah.
It's not always the exact same thing, but I know that like, oh, this turn they're not going to physically attack me. They're going to do something else, whether it be like they buff their speed, or they call in backup or something like that. I know that this is the
Yeah.
round to do something like crucial, whether it be do a do a healing, or use a like some sort of buff to like lessen my damage to breath attacks or magic attacks. Like that is something that I did really enjoy, of like kind of cracking that puzzle. Um, it's just like a part of that puzzle is also just simply being strong enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think what's really interesting too is what makes the single character aspect of it shine more than it did in the original is the fact that you now have multiple enemies, and it uses the Dragon Quest style of like enemy group designations and how certain targeting stuff works. Because that makes the full kit of the hero that much more interesting. Where it's like, hey, I'm fighting like a wide array of enemies. They're not really in groups. It's probably a good time to use like Crackle, because that
yeah,
actually hits all enemies, or bring out a boomerang to hit all enemies. Or it's like, oh, it's a bunch of enemies, but they're all the same type and they're in a group. Sweet, I can use Sizzle or a whip. Uh, there's this very intentional like way of what tool you bring based on what the enemy lineup is. That exists in the other Dragon Quest games, but again, because you just have your one guy, you're thinking way more about how to like efficiently handle that. Because, you know, in the other ones, you might just be like, yeah, everyone attack, each person take a different target. Maybe we'll have to do some mop up later. This one's like, okay, I really need to make sure I take out some other people first. That I
Yeah,
really enjoyed.
yeah, yeah. And when I inevitably like replay this game, I do kind of want to take that approach more because that was something that it was very clear, like, oh, we approach this game very differently because I was so because I do agree that you'll get certain equipment that will be more beneficial to like certain bosses. Like I got the kind of like the dragon melee weapon to like I grinded to get the money so that when I fought the dragon to save the princess, I had that with me so that I would deal more damage to him, right? But in general, like I kind of was just like, okay, what is the best gear? Like, what is the best defense? Because
Yeah.
I knew that like stats are so important in this game when it comes to boss fights and survivability that I was so focused on that that I was just like, nah, I can't give up like 10 defense or like 20 defense just so that I get less damage like when I get hit with a breath attack.
Sure.
When I got to a certain point, I was just like, nope, I just want I need the best gear.
Yeah.
And I kind of just like worked from there. Because one of the things that you mentioned to me that admittedly I had no idea is that you can change your entire equipment in battle,
Yep. And it's a free
which is
action.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
It doesn't like take your turn. It's the only limitation is the hero technically can only carry so many items at a time. You have a bag that's like infinite everything, but on your hero, I forget the actual number, but it's like 2 pages worth of items. So maybe it's like 20 items or something. Um,
Yeah, 2024, something like that.
something like that. And so as long as you have that on you, you could have like an entire other set of armor. And you're just like, hey, like, so for instance, one boss, I won't say like where this is in the game, but there's a boss where when it's above half health, it primarily uses a lot of ice moves. And then when it goes below half, it changes over to fire. So I just swapped over, like, I just had different earrings that gave me resistance to different damage types. And I was like, oh, I'm at this stage. Time to put those earrings on. A thing I did a lot too that I know you said you didn't really engage with was because different weapons use different targeting types, I would always keep usually like a sword and a boomerang. Sometimes I'd have a whip or something instead, but those are kind of the two extremes of like the sword is usually the best damage on a single guy, boomerang just hits all enemies no matter what, which
Yeah.
is great for some boss fights where they have like ads, you know, or there's some boss fights where it starts with like, you know, 5 guys on the screen. It's like, okay, just clear out the weaker ones first, spam the boomerang, and then go over to sword when it's time to take the lone guy that's left. It really like it's very interesting to me how I think these are all things that exist in other Dragon Quest games, but because again you're just the one guy, I engaged with some of the mechanical mastery aspects of this game far more than I have in the others. Like I think usually there's a reward for doing that, but you can kind of just get by on like everyone's sufficiently leveled, we have good gear, you know, we're good to go. In this one it's like no, it doesn't, even if you over level a bit, you gotta know what moves you're supposed to be using for this fight or paying attention to like how the enemy acts, that I really found engaging. I will say from like a leveling standpoint, because this recurred to me when you were talking about saving up for the special weapon for the dragon. That is the one thing I do agree on pacing wise. I feel like money drop is just a bit too much of a drip.
It's
There's
not
so
good.
much gear that, and like, it kind of forces you to choose and prioritize like what better gear you want to get when. But there's just a couple points, especially near kind of the middle, where it's just like I don't have the money for any of the stuff that's showing up, and like I'm not spending. I'm not buying healing items. I'm not buying like I just saved up for weapons, and I was aggressively selling stuff I found too to like be able to afford things. And every now and then there was just some stuff where it's like I don't. That's just not happening. Like that is not being
Yeah.
purchased at any point. Like
That's not happening.
I got two 5-digit items I could choose between buying, and the other ones just we're dropping it to later. And again, like that kind of adds like an interesting choice aspect, but because like gear optimization is such a big part of this game, I think that is one bottleneck I did not appreciate. Because that was the one thing I did grind is there's a certain enemy you can encounter that has like a bigger money drop.
Yes.
And
It's like it's kind of flip-flop where you get a lot of money, but you get very little XP.
yeah, and I ended up hunting those for a while because, I was pretty good on XP most of the game, but I also tend to like put a little time aside for metal slime grinding. But I needed money. Like that was absolutely a problem I ran into.
Yeah. Um, one of the things I want to talk about is the scrolls that are
Mm,
introduced in this game.
hmm.
So yeah, so basically when you explore the world, you will find scrolls, and these scrolls are basically abilities or spells that you can only learn them through this way. You won't learn them leveling up. Um, and my idea of the pitch of the scrolls initially it was in Dragon Quest 1 specifically, and that it was supposed to be like these like a magical, it's a magical scroll that Erdrick basically like imbued his skills, right? For other adventurers to find and learn. Um but then they show up in Dragon Quest 2 as well. And I feel like that I kind of feel like that was a miss execution. Like I think that like it made a lot more sense that of them existing in the first game versus this game, and that was just like the pitch of like what I understood it to be. I don't know if you thought it the same way, but
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, is there like a lore drop somewhere that has that implication? I don't think I ever got the idea that those were like Erdrick made them or they were passed down.
I swear I thought I saw it somewhere, both in game and just like when they like talk
Sure,
about this
during yeah,
when they've been like a trailer or whatever, like they explaining the game.
yeah,
But I could be off base there. But I like that idea more.
sure.
I like that
No,
idea
there's a
more.
fun idea there of
Um,
like yeah, like inheriting like here are these secret techniques or whatever. Um,
because that's kind of the thing, right? Is that like as you're exploring through the game in Dragon Quest 1, you're finding Erdrick's stuff that
yeah,
he left either in like specifically or in key, not even particularly key locations. You'll just like find things, you're just like, oh, that's like that from this game.
yeah.
um and so the scrolls made a lot of sense to me. They're like, oh, that's kind of like a similar thing that Erdrick did. But I guess not. But I do want to say that like when you are exploring the world, which it's pretty like it's all pretty straightforward, where you're gonna like find key like things, but just double check your work, I guess is the
Yeah.
best way to explain it. Because I found out that there was an ability that I never found. Like I and when I tell you,
It's like a key ability.
I
It's like a very useful core ability.
at the time when I
Yeah.
learned about it, absolutely it was. And I was like, oh, this would have changed everything.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like it's an ability where it's called Miracle Slash.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like you hit them and you heal a little, right?
Yep.
Is that like yeah, that would have been so good. But the thing was is that like because when I found out about it, I retraced my steps. I went to every town, I
Yep.
went into every building, I like checked every barrel, every pot, I checked the bookshelves with like the red book in them.
Yeah.
I still to this day cannot find this Miracle Slash scroll. But here's the thing is that you can find scrolls like when you're in the overworld and you see like the little sparkles,
Yeah.
and you can find scrolls that way. It's just so, and I surely did not find every one of those as I was progressing through the game, but just considering that like you found it and like other people I talked to found it, like how did I miss this? Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because another thing I found out is that the best healing spell I didn't have initially when I got to the end of the game.
Oh, yeah.
Because
That's also a
yeah,
scroll.
because yeah.
Yep.
Because because there's not, even though there are bookshelves, there's not many. and so it's kind of hard. Like it's something where it's kind of easy to overlook.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's not always bookshelf. Sometimes they're in chests, sometimes they're spread
yes,
throughout. Uh,
yes,
One thing I want to highlight, just on that note, that I did like as a quality of life change in this game, and I forget if they did this in 3, but I used it so much in 1. Um, Hotkeys for being able to just immediately cast certain spells like when you're exploring. So instead of having to like press pause, go to spells or go to abilities, you just go like, oh, hit R1 and then one of the directions on the D-pad, you just cast the spell. Uh,
mm,
so great for two things. One, spamming Holy Protection and Padfoot, which are the things you use to lower enemy encounters. So when you just want to like double check an area and grab things you missed, it's just like I gotta turn those on every like 50 steps. Like it's gonna wear off, and then I gotta cast it again. And then there's a couple spells that help you with finding treasure, like
yes. Peep and
Peep, Snoop, and Nose for Treasure. Nose for Treasure lets you
Nose for
know,
treasure.
yeah,
Yeah,
because Nose lets you know how many treasures are like on the map you're currently in. Just whatever. It doesn't have to be in a chest. It's just any items you can pick up. And then the other ones will do things like actually highlight on your map where they are and that kind of thing. And I ended
and
up like going back and re-exploring some places because I had the terrible
oh
idea
yeah,
of I should get every single mini medal, which I did. And that was huge also for making the end a little easier. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
No, did not care to do that. I
Damn.
think I got like maybe 25.
Oh, see, and I was only missing like 5 by the time I decided to do that. I
How
had
many
40.
are there?
40.
Yeah, I don't even know where you could have found those other 15. Like I feel like I this is the thing, is like I feel like I went through that map pretty extensively. And so
So
that's
I will say that there are some items that are like not in a obvious interactable. Like sometimes it's just like there's a piece of scenery that kind of looks interesting in some way, and if you interact with it, you'll get an item. They're a little more hidden.
yeah,
And if you use
there are those
Snoop,
like
those will
secret
highlight.
spots, right?
Yeah. Well, not just
Yeah,
that on the world map, but also like in dungeons. Like sometimes it'll just be a puddle of water, and there's actually like you can pick something up in it.
oh wow, okay.
Yeah, and that's where
But I mean,
Snoop comes in handy.
I found like in certain dungeons, like if you like are perfectly in the center of like this panel, right? Like it'll say, "Oh, interact." Like I've had those type
Yeah,
of experiences, but
for
like
sure.
not like a puddle of water or anything like that. Um, yeah, that's one. I'm glad you mentioned the quality of life improvements, because like I think that's something that like we should definitely talk about. Like some of them obviously carry over from 3, but like one thing that we actually talked about post Dragon Quest 1 that we didn't, or no, you brought it up to me, and I was so mad because I looked in the settings for it,
Oh yeah,
but it's so poorly named.
yeah,
And so we talked about this when we previewed the game, or when we first previewed the game, because we previewed it twice.
yeah.
The first time I mentioned how they had a weakness
Like
option
highlight.
where they
Yeah,
base or highlight. They tell you like what abilities and spells are vulnerable to what enemies. And you don't even need to like test it. It's not like Octopath style. It's
yeah.
like you just know.
You just know that this
And
applies. Yeah.
yeah, and one of the first things I did when I started Dragon Quest 1 was I went through all the options, and I didn't see anything that made me think that this could possibly be this feature.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, "Oh, they must have just decided not to do it." It's in the settings and it's titled suggested actions.
Which
What does
like
that mean?
it's not an incorrect, it's not like an inaccurate descriptor of what it does, but it's not, I think, what people would be like looking for, right? Like you're looking for like weakness or highlight or like something like that, right? And it's like, no, suggested actions. These are the actions we suggest because the enemy is weak to it. It's like that, it's not wrong, but it is. It's because
Yeah.
I did the same thing as you. I went through the settings, didn't immediately see it, and was just kind of like, okay, fine, whatever. And then I went back and looked again. And I was like, oh no, it is there, huh? And the thing is, I feel so dumb missing it because it's literally like one of 3 options in battle setting. It's like speed, select the same command again, and suggested actions. But because that word
Yeah.
just doesn't mean anything to me immediately, I just didn't read what it said it does.
My my immediate thought was like, "Oh, if I turn this on, my character's immediately going to do the action, like it's like auto
It's like
battle.
AI or something. Yeah, sure. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, which is already a thing in the tactics thing. So why would they have it here? So yeah, I never thought twice about it until you brought it up. Cause I was in LA for the weekend and you brought it up and I was in the car. I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean?
Yeah. That
But
reminds me,
like,
another thing I wanted to bring up that we talked about during that drive. This is a dumb little thing, but it's so funny to me. So the main character is a silent protagonist. And because you're by yourself, you know, in the other games they would usually cheat by having another character maybe chime in for you or something. In this one, because you're
yeah.
silent all the time, one thing they do that is smart, like I like this, is they'll do like, oh, he does like a little hand motion, and that's telling you that he's talking and emoting to someone and like telling someone something. But the way the animation is done, uh, God, for people listening, you're not going to get the full experience. It's meant to look like you're gesturing with your hand, like out. You know, like you're just, oh, I'm explaining something to you right now. But it really reads to me like he's asking for money or something. Like it looks like he's putting his hand out, just being like, hey, come here. Like, pay up. What's like, what can you do for
You
me?
want some of this? You
Yeah,
want some of
yeah,
this?
it's just very like I don't know why, like it just always read silly to me every time I saw the character do it like in a conversation. It looked silly to me.
Yeah. No, I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, this is a weird I was like, this is a weird gesture where he's just kind of like,
Hey,
come
come
on,
here.
bring it.
Hey, yeah, come on. Come on.
uh I'm trying to think if there's any other like quality of life features that were introduced specifically in this game that we should mention. I definitely one thing I will mention is that, and I don't think I did this in Dragon Quest 3 when I played it last year, but this time around I was just like, I'm turning all these treasure icons on the map. I was just like, I just want to know where these treasures are. I'm not trying to waste time. Like I'm
I
just
didn't
gonna
even know that was a
figure.
thing. I never looked at that in the settings.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's
Huh.
like I'm pretty sure it's one of the initial things that are asked of you when you start the game.
Interesting. Because I know you're asked if you want to have objectives, and I left that on.
Yes, but
Because you can turn off
mm,
objectives, but I don't know.
yeah, but
Maybe yeah.
it's in there.
Huh.
So, yeah, it's very cool, and also like tells you what kind of chest it is. So, like, if it's a chest that you need like the
Like key
red
for or
key,
something. Yeah.
yeah, or the blue key or the black key. So very very cool. Um, but yeah, I really love how this game just uh makes the narrative feel like, because the thing is like something that's nice about Dragon Quest 1 is that it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's
Young
like
hero
it's
saves
a
the princess and then the world. Like it's just the most
yes,
the most like baseline inspiration to other RPG storylines. Like yeah, just the simplest you can get.
but they were also able to expand like again the background elements of the game
Yes.
to make the story feel more prominent. Like this is a remake similar to like, for me like Trails or like FF7 remake for different, like, for similar and different reasons where like they kind of outdid themselves, I think, in those aspects. Like where if I like grew up playing Dragon Warrior right on the NES and then saw this, it'd be like, wow, like what an incredible achievement in that sense of just like this is just on the recreate like on recreating and just kind of perfecting the that game specifically. um I do think that it is, and when we get to two, I'm gonna feel maybe even more strongly about two so far. That it's just one of the best remakes. Like,
Yeah.
I know that we were talking about we were like talking some negatives, but like I think that like what you look for in a remake, um, all of the things are here.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know
Uh,
if there's anything that you kind of wish was different, but like outside of like just like some balancing tweaks that I personally took issue with, but yeah,
yeah. No, I pretty much agree with you. I mean, my biggest hang up was again, I think gold drops a little too slow. But other than that, like that's I don't have any issues with a lot of the core changes made. I think a lot of the plot elements that are added here like make sense and flesh it out considerably more. There are some fun little things it adds that I absolutely love that we cannot talk about because that's spoiler
Yes.
territory. But just
Yes.
awesome little embellishments and choices they make that I think are fantastic. I think we both walked away from 3 last year thinking that like Square did a bang up job with it and it was a great remake. And uh, it feels like these are carrying that torch forward perfectly, and even making some further additions like the weakness highlighting once you know where to look in the settings for it.
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about Dragon Quest 2.
For not quite as
I
long, but
not yeah, yeah, yeah. We're not quite as far into it, but I definitely far enough where like I just want to start with like if if I haven't already said on the podcast before, like I really loved the Switch mobile remake of Dragon Quest 2 a lot. I really liked the concept of it all. Um and I loved how it felt as a sequel. And I think that by the time I'm done with this game, I think it will be my favorite Dragon Quest game I've played so far.
oh,
Like I do think so. I really really love the narrative updates of this game in
yeah,
a way that I didn't like. I wasn't entirely sure, but how far they were going to go because I kept myself pretty pretty away from the outside of previews,
sure.
like the kind of things to expect in this game, because I knew I was going to play it, and I love the the party members so much.
Yeah,
Like I love them. They're all like so personified in a way that we just never got in the originals or in the older versions.
yeah,
And I love the banter between them all. Um, I love like how they all have, they very much wear their emotions on their sleeves on like everything that's going on and how they are each reacting to different scenarios that they're in. Uh and because they are family, right? They're all cousins. For those that don't know, so like the main characters for this one, there is still technically like a main character of the three, technically four now because they introduced a new party member in this game. Um but they're all like the great grandkids of the Dragon Quest 1 hero.
yeah,
And you basically learn that like after Dragon Quest 1 ended, um you know the hero, without going into super deep spoilers, kind of started his own uh like lineage of sorts, if that makes sense.
he founds a kingdom,
Yeah,
and things progress from there.
yeah,
A new line of kings kind of thing.
yeah. It's
Um,
like he goes to like not Newfoundland, but like new areas that aren't in the original game, and basically creates his own kingdom. And there's like different lineages and all that stuff.
yeah,
Um, and so it's really cool how like these characters are kind of dealing with the ideas of like, oh, we're all the kind of like the weight of the expectations of being not just the offspring of the hero, but also of Erdrick. And
right.
it's just like, and how they're dealing with that when like their their whole worlds are like crumbling around each other.
Yeah,
Um, I really like these characters a lot.
yeah,
I think it's very well written. I think they all have like very distinct personalities. Um, I think my one gripe, kind of, is that, and I know that this isn't a normal thing, but I do kind of wish that the hero of this game, quote unquote, talked. Because there'll be like the other two characters, Caradoc and Paranel, I believe, are their like canonical names
yeah, and
that the game
Matilda
gives
for
them,
the fourth one. Yeah,
and Matilda for the new princess. Um, they like are talking
they're
about all
full
these different
characters. Yeah,
things, and they're basically like, "Oh, what do you think of all that?" And then it's just like, Yeah, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
it's
I
just
mean it's the classic like how do you feel about silent protagonists, and especially within Dragon Quest, right? Like that's always been like Dragon Quest is one franchise where I feel like as long as Yuji Horii around, that they're just never going to allow for a full voiced lead.
sure,
And that's been a problem people have with some specific entries. You know, people have felt mixed about it in like 11 and an 8, and really any of them that have like a more epic and like fully detailed plot with a party. Because that is what really draws 2 apart from 1 and 3, right? Is that 3 you have a party, but it's a silent protagonist with 3 make your own
mercenaries.
characters. Yeah, mercenaries that you can even swap out. They don't have to stay in the party. You can get different ones.
Yeah,
But it's like, okay, so like there's not a ton of personality there. Uh, and then 1, you're one guy who is silent. You know, so there's not really personality there. So 2 is the only one that really does give, and this is part of why it's resonating with you so much, I think, is like, yeah, you have actual party members with personalities, and there's party dynamics that aren't just simply you have party members for different like strategic reasons. There is plot happening with all these surrounding characters. Uh, that does make a pretty big difference. I'm more cool and okay with like silent protag, but I can understand especially where it stands out here more because of the fact that you know, like you were saying, Paranel and Caradoc might be saying something to one another, and then check in with your main character that you named yourself, and just kind of goes, "Yes," like you just head nod. That's
yeah,
what the character says. And this goes back to, you know, oh, it's easier to self-insert or whatever. Any kind of reasoning for why silent protagonists make sense. But yeah, that's just Dragon Quest, baby.
yeah. I just think that in this game, that even though there is a quote unquote main character, and they do have other actions like throughout the game, or there's other scenarios in the game where like they make you feel that, right?
Sure,
That you are the
the
that
main one
hero
of the group.
is
Yeah,
the main one of the three. But these are basically like what, co-protagonists? Like
yeah.
they're all like
The whole party's important. Absolutely.
they're all important. They're all tied to everything that's going on directly in a way that I just don't think we get very often. Like, normally like other party members, they join like, hey, I'm gonna join because I want to help what you're doing.
Sure.
This is like, no, they all have the same stakes at hand.
Yeah.
Um, and so, but like, there's certain things that happen to like maybe one of those party members specifically that like the others are helping them kind of go through and all that stuff. But ultimately, like it feels like that these are three, soon to be four main characters that are all im- you know uh intimately relevant to the story. So
Right. Yeah. I think something too that plays into that is that a vibe I was definitely getting right off the bat with 2 is that um 2 feels the most like immediate high stakes. There are things that need to be like taken care of and handled, and like this is a real problem cropping up that like stuff is going down. Both 1 and 3 lean very much more in sort of like the bad guy's been around, and yes, there are some bad things that happened recently, but you kind of just show up and get involved, and for the most part, the bad guy's kind of just hanging out in his castle waiting for you to get there. And you know there are some specific events that can play out, and there's like lieutenants and stuff that you meet, but it always feels sort of like 3 especially is very adventure forward, right? Like 3 is very much like, hey, get a ship, go around the world, find the things you need to find, and you'll eventually make your way to the end. And 1 is very much like solo hero adventuring around the world, and eventually you're going to make your way to the bad guy. 2 feels like there's just immediate stakes that are presenting the situation, and like there's a reason why the adventure is starting now.
yes,
And there's sort of like it feels more epic right off the bat, especially with I think some of the art design choices they go with, like Dragon Quest 1 and even 3. I feel like a lot of the castle designs and a lot of the world map design is a little more simplified. And
yes,
2, the map looks so much more just dense right off the bat. Like you open up the world map and it's a far larger, grander feeling world. And even like the castle designs that you start in, because again, it's, you know, each of the main characters is from a different kingdom. So you're like leaving these kingdoms and you're seeing these like new big structures. And it just all feels like a lot more is happening in the world suddenly than in the other 2.
yeah. And I like how the kind of like items that you find that are like main story things, they add to like the lore of the world. Like they want to make you feel like that you know the history of like what has happened in this area and like in this like region that the Dragon Quest One hero has established,
Mhm.
which I'm always a big fan. I give a lot of points to that, and I just really am. Again, I already thought that Dragon Quest Two was underappreciated, underrated. This just dials that all the way to 11, where like I cannot wait to play more of this game because the first game, like, I still had a great time. I think I enjoyed more of like the gameplay, like again, the kind of puzzles that you'd be presented with certain boss fights and things like that. And I did like how they expanded the narrative, um, and made some choices, like some changes to some choices of what you can do in the game. And again, some of the payoff stuff with three. Um, but this game just like from the ground up just feels so much more substantial in everything that it's trying to do, and I really can't wait to see like how everything else is paid off. There's certain characters that I really am looking forward to seeing that I know from playing the second game originally, because there's some like really funny stuff. That's another thing too, that this game is really funny already. Like a lot of humor in this game, and there's even more to come, and I'm just like this game's great. This game's really incredible. And it's really thrown a wrench into like my ideas for a tattoo.
I was about to ask,
So,
is this messing up where your
yeah.
next tattoo might be? Oh man.
I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. But cuz I still have, five the finish 5 and 6
Sure.
through 11 to play. So,
Yeah, many more
it's
Dragon
not
Quest
like,
2 experience.
yeah, many more Dragon Quest to experience.
Just get a
Um
slime. It applies to all of them. You're fine.
No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not like I appreciate the slimes, like I got a few slime plushes, but I'm not a slime boy like that, I would say. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to Dragon Quest 2 and seeing that through. And hopefully um it pays off. Like hopefully everything that I feel about this game, I feel that way once I get to the end of it. Um Kevin, did you have any other last second thoughts about
uh
Dragon Quest 1 and 2?
no, I think we covered because like two, it's one we haven't finished it yet, right? So there's more to go, but I think a lot of what we covered in one, even though some of that was very one specific, still like bleeds over into two well enough. Uh,
Okay.
I think combat updates, all the quality of life stuff, like fantastic upgrade. I think two does set itself apart tonally in a way that's very interesting compared to the others. Um, all in all, I think this is just a very strong, uh, like lineup of remakes, like packaged together. Well, I mean, three sold separately, but like just like having this trilogy all back now. Um,
Yeah.
Even though I think Square is very likely to remake more of them in the future, there is something unique about how these three are connected directly and have this kind of lineage to them.
Yeah, 'cause, the Zeninthian, is that how you pronounce it? The Zeninthian trilogy, which is 4 through 6, like, those are tied, but a lot more loosely,
Yeah.
compared to this, trilogy, and so, it's really great that they just kind of went all out on these remakes in a way, because like, they were just remade so many times, right? And they're like, "Hey, no, we're gonna, like, properly make a definitive version of all 3 of these games," and I think that it's just, like, strengthened that trilogy, which I already loved all 3 of them, considerably, more. And I also wanted to mention, just like just a small thing, because we didn't talk about, we talked about how like balance was a really big issue, at least for me, a notable issue in the first game. I don't feel that way in the second game, and part of that could be like, oh, you got more party members. Oh,
Yeah.
it's because that could be an aspect to it for sure. Um, but I do think that just like the general flow and pacing of Dragon Quest 2 has been like pretty flawless at this point. And I'm really excited to again just play more of it and um see how I feel, and we'll give our like kind of finished thoughts on Dragon Quest 2 on a normal episode of the pod. once we have the ability to do so. Um, but yeah, alrighty. Kevin, anything last second for the people before we dip out?
Not today.
All right. Thank you everybody for listening to our review of Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD-2D remake. Thank you one more time to Square Enix for sending us codes to review the game. Thank you all for listening to this podcast, and until next time, we'll catch you later.
Later.